He's right there.
This episode of the Bucktails podcast is brought to you by Pistol Creek and Trip Sporting Goods.
Oh, good blood. All right, that's some good blood here.
Shut up. Yeah. Look at that. Woo. Good deer, babe. Welcome back, Mr. Barber, Jonathan Barber with Pistol Creek. I think this is attempt number 229 through 2 different days to record. What was it, about a month ago we tried to record?
Yeah, it was right out about a month ago now. And kind of made our link up since then, but seems like something's always popping up with technology, whatever.
Yeah, well, between work or I think one time you had a tractor or 7 down.
Yeah.
You've had tractors down. You've got a very pregnant wife. I'm playing in a golf tournament in a couple weeks. So I've been trying to get back in the swing of things there, and yeah, just life. I mean, heck, we both got kids and busy, so that's how it goes. But glad to have you back on. Yeah, tonight we have tried Google Meet, we've tried StreamYard, we've tried Zoom. None of the above work, so Jonathan is on speaker on my phone, and I have a video recording. Not sure if I'll use it, but hey, we are coming to you from the Bucktails podcast, the most podunk podcast out there. So, and so we got pretty far into our first recording, and then my Wi-Fi crapped out, so that was the first issue. But we did get to talk a little bit about how you got involved with Pistol Creek, and it's a heck of a story. So if you don't care, man, go into that a little bit about how did you get connected? Like, how did you get connected with Pistol Creek?
Well, I'd love to run it by again, man. It's one of my favorite things to talk about, actually. I've always been a pretty serious turkey hunter, and I was probably, I don't know, 13, 14 years old, something like that. And I ran across a book at a library. Our school took us to the library, and we had to pick out one book. I was digging around in this bin, and, you know, kids back then were all into Goosebumps and you name it. And I picked up book after book and didn't like what I found. And I happened to grab one book and read the title, and it said Compositions of a Sickness. And that is a book written by one of our own at Pistol Creek, Donald Devereaux Jarrett. I fell absolutely in love with this book, and he kind of became a hero to me over the years. I never thought I'd actually get to meet him and build the relationship we have now, but you fast forward to 8 years ago, something like that. We were on a turkey hunting chat group on Facebook, and we started talking back and forth, and I kind of asked him, I was like, are you Donald Devereaux Jarrett, like the author that writes for Georgia Outdoor News, wrote this book? And he's like, yeah. I just, I was in awe, in all honesty, man. I found my hero. And, well, we talked more and more about turkey hunting together, and we realized we were both sick with it. We started turkey hunting together, have grown a relationship that I would like to call him. He's more my brother than he is anything else. And as it sits, whenever we got really close, I wanted to do something special for him regarding, his book and stuff like how much the book meant to me. So I reached out to a call maker by the name of John Browning and asked him to build a call for Donald. And he did, and that started a relationship with me and John. And a few years later, I'm on staff. I've been on staff now for 3 years, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, that's a testament to how small the hunting world truly is. I mean, as a kid, you read a book by a guy that you idolized or looked up to, kind of a, like you said, a hero. And then, fast forward to adulthood, now you're on the same pro staff. I mean, wow, full circle. I mean, that's That's incredible. And I know that Donald has done a lot of writing in the outdoors. And before I talked to you the first time, I didn't know that he had written books. I knew he was like an outdoor writer of sorts. He'd written articles and things, but he's much more accomplished than I think a lot of people know. So I need to get him
Oh,
on
by
the.
far, by
Yeah,
far, absolutely. He also he writes for Mossy Oaks articles and stuff like that as well. He's very, very solid in that game. That's for sure.
gotcha. Yeah, I need to get him on here pretty soon. I need to. I'm trying to ramp up some more of the Pistol Creek guys on the podcast this fall, and then even if I release some of the turkey hunting stories, in February and March as we're leading up to turkey season. But yeah, I need to get some more, turkey specific stuff on there from the creek bank, and definitely need to get him on because I'm sure he's got plenty to talk about and plenty that he's seen and does. And I know he guides up in South Dakota, I believe, somewhere up there.
Yeah, South Dakota and Nebraska.
Yeah.
I
So
believe he's been doing that for almost 30 years now.
yes, I mean, being a guide, like there's no telling the stories that he's got of turkeys and just the crazy things that happen just to normal everyday hunters. But as a guide doing it like that as much as he does, yeah, I'm sure he's got some insane stories.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So moving on into what we had kind of, I don't like to have an outline of sorts, but I do want to hit the things that we talked about because it was going pretty good until Wi-Fi, shot us in the foot. But so you work at, is it Bethesda? Is that the right name?
Yes, it's Bethesda Academy is basically the parent of where I work. I work for the Bethesda Wildlife Preserve. We are a full-time bird dog operation, essentially all upland hunting. It's a private membership, and all of our proceeds go to basically the Bethesda Academy School, which is a all-boys private school here in Savannah, Georgia.
Gotcha. So the school, I wanted to dive into this a little bit more on the school itself. So you said it's a private school. Like, do y'all have athletics? Do y'all have teams? Is it like a boarding school? Is it just kids from the area that go there? Like, what kind of what kind of school is it?
Yeah, and that's very interesting about Bethesda. I have to give you the history on it before I can even lead into what it is now. It was started in 1740, in colonial times, 1740, as an orphanage, and it stayed an orphanage / boys' home until the early 90s. At that time, it was a boarding school for at-risk youth in the inner city in Savannah. They still had, kids without parents and stuff like that, but they started pulling in just other kids that just had economic issues or, issues within their family and stuff like that. And it still tried to stay on the same idea that it was built on, which was taking these kids who are at a disadvantage, teaching them skills, different things like that, educating them, preparing them for life, and trying to give them a new lease on everything. And it still does that to this day. The kids get to work on the cattle farm. They get to come over to the wildlife preserve and work with me, putting in food plots. You name it. It's a pretty special place.
No, that's impressive. That's that's something that more schools I believe should be. I mean, not all schools have the resources like y'all do on a preserve and have the access to food plots and things like that. But that's incredible. You get your traditional education, but they also get to see the outdoors and wildlife management. In a sense. So do you get to teach or like lead some classes there, or do you have like a teaching capacity at all with the school?
I do. What was originally simply work studies, where the kids just came and had certain tasks that they would do, we've actually kind of transitioned into exploratory classes. Like one for this semester I taught was wildlife management, and it's a very broad wildlife management, but we cover deer, turkey, quail, a little bit of pond management, different things like that. And they got to come with me the entire semester and learn what wildlife management is. Why are you managing, the habitat for the wildlife? Just from front to back, they got to touch on a little bit of everything, including they were able to design, prepare, and plant some food plots. And they had to present to me, what their plans were, why they were doing it, why this food plot was placed in this certain area. And it was really special to see some of these kids who, without this program, their entire lives, they probably never will be exposed to this type of thing. And the lights go off in their heads and, really enjoy doing what they were doing. It's a very special class.
Yeah, I mean that is, like I said, that's awesome. I wish there were more chances for kids like that to, because a lot of kids don't even know that wildlife management could be a job, or that could be a major in college or something that you guys do. I mean, and there's a lot that goes into it. I mean, I do a good bit in the fishing world. I fish tournaments, things like that. So I love to see about pond management and the ideas behind lake management, things like that. The shock studies that they do, and just fish behavior. But it's one of those things that growing up, I didn't know how to get into that industry at all, and a lot of kids don't. So no, that's impressive. That's incredible. So that's I'm sure that's very rewarding to you to see those kids, how they react to it, and getting to show them a little bit, a little view inside your world.
Absolutely. With my passion regarding to conservation and management and stuff like that, it's something that I see that it's a close knit community. It's a small community, and I've had fears that type of work would one day disappear. But seeing kids engage in it and engage in it passionately is very, very rewarding.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then you said, we talked a little bit last time about the upland bird hunting, and that is something that I have never been around, never been a part of. So I asked a lot of questions last time, and I'm going to ask them again because, a lot of the listeners are from North Georgia. We're up here in the mountains. So, there's not a lot of upland bird hunting up here. So
Right.
I know you said you're kind of, a bird dog, upland bird hunting type place, and that you, do, kind of guided trips. Y'all put the quail out. So first of all, what all kind of birds do y'all hunt? What type of upland bird do y'all, offer down there?
Yeah. Our primary species that we're typically hunting is your northern bobwhite quail. We do have carryover birds, things like that, naturally occurring on the property, but nowhere near what would be ideal to be able to conduct the type of hunts we have. So we do have quail that are pen raised and pre-released. And then we also do tower pheasant shoots. And on the tower pheasant shoots, we normally have about 30 people that get to participate in this couple-hour shoot where we release the birds off the towers. And then we actually get to follow up on those in the days following the tower shoot with our bird dogs, going out and finding them. And you'd be surprised at how quickly those types of birds readjust to being in the wild versus being in those pens. It gets really fun out there when they're out there just kind of milling around and going back to what they naturally do. And then we also got chucker birds that we hunt. Chuckers are the best way for me to describe a chucker would be if a quail, a dove, and a pheasant all created a whole another type of bird. They are from the Middle East. They're kind of like a mountain, desert mountain bird, but they are really hardy birds. They're really tough animals, and they're my favorite to hunt and especially to eat. That's for sure.
Nice. How big do they get about?
Size of about a close to what you would see on an average chicken or something like that.
Okay, nice. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask too. Is that I'm sure after all the hunting and stuff that y'all do down there, I've never eaten quail. I've eaten plenty of wild turkey, things like that. But yeah, I'm sure the quail's good. I haven't eaten. I'm not sure that I've eaten duck, but any kind of hunted bird, I'm sure is gonna taste great. But yeah, never heard of a chucker. So a Middle Eastern bird. But you said that's your favorite to hunt for sure.
Oh yeah, they're my favorite to hunt. For one, it doesn't matter what they're in, whether it's heavy brush or tall grass, they bust up out of there whenever it's time to get out of there. And I mean, so you can always expect them to get in some tight spots and have some challenging shots. And that's probably the most fun with it, is just how challenging it could be. And it can really test a dog, and sometimes that's actually exactly what you need to bring a dog around to its top performances, trying to find and hunt those chuckers, because they could definitely pose a challenge to any dog. And that's my favorite part really about it, is the dog work.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've got some buddies of mine who actually Daniel Tritt, who runs Tritt Sporting, goes up in Dahlonega. He's got a GSP, and they usually take a trip every year. Sometime in the fall, I forget the exact month that they go, but they take a trip up to Wisconsin to go grouse hunting with their dog.
Oh, yeah.
So and
Yeah.
he's put out a couple of YouTube videos, and I've seen kind of how they do it. Is it pretty similar to what they do, what they're doing with the dog, like as far as grouse hunting? Is it pretty close?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's very similar because, like I said, they like to get in the jump and just the hardest stuff to get into, and grouse do the same thing. There's a small population of grouse in northern Georgia. They're really hard to get on. Most people who want to hunt them head to your Midwest states and stuff like that. But it's a very, very similar hunting with the chuckers.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, I figured it was. And like you're saying, the hunting with the dog is a huge benefit. Growing up, we had a few squirrel dogs. I had one when I was in college that I wish I could have hunted more, but just didn't have the time. And then a lot of the places that I would wanted to take him squirrel hunting, I deer hunted too. So then that kind of put a bind on. I could hunt some in August whenever small game opens, and then like in February. So I didn't really get to hunt him a whole lot. But just watching a dog work is a lot of fun. And I've got a dog now that will kind of track a deer, blood track a deer. He's not well trained by any means, but he does a decent job for us. And even on easy tracks, we'll, if we're close to the house, we'll go get him and let him work just to watch him do his thing. I mean, it's a lot of fun to get behind a dog. And I'm sure yours are very highly trained and, very good at what they do. So I'm sure that's even more of a benefit.
It definitely is. They are very much so professionals, and they are serious about their job. These bird dogs absolutely love what they do, and that makes it a lot easier when it comes to the training and the work of them, is when you have a dog who just absolutely loves doing what they're doing. You have a little bit of correction with them and a little bit of training, and get them doing the things that you need them to do. Man, it's beautiful to watch a dog come together. It really is.
No, that's amazing. So, I think I asked you this last time too, but so y'all do the upland quail hunting. Did you say are there ponds on the property that the members can fish too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got two primary ponds that are really for the fishing. We've got a 55-acre trophy managed bass lake, and we have about a 2-acre little bluegill lake. For the most part, everybody gets out there to the bass lake, and I mean it's some of the best fishing in this area, and I could say that as somebody who's wet a line at just about every mud puddle from here, for 100 miles. It's some of the best fishing that you can imagine.
Gotcha. And is all that closed to the members, or is there a way for like people to come and fish that, or is it closed off?
It's for the most part it's closed off now.
Right.
We there's exceptions made depending on certain situations. The staff at the school are allowed to come fishing periodically. They have, of course, because we're firing shotguns, different things like that, they have to arrange the timing with us. But the staff gets to come, the membership, they get to come fish whenever they want, essentially. Bring their kids anytime, bring family members. But as in a public access, for the most part, it is closed off.
Gotcha. And the reason why I asked is I went on a few hunting and fishing trips with an organization called United Special Sportsmen's Alliance. So kids with terminal illnesses or, life-changing ailments or disabilities. I got to go to Lake Gunnersville fishing. I killed a bear in Wisconsin, went to a lot of really, really neat places with them. So I need to, get, well, we can talk more after this to see if that'd be something that you could get, even if it's like, where my mind's going, if it's a pond if you had, access where you could get like kids in a wheelchair, like even if it's just 2 or 3 out there bank fishing or something, I could get you in contact with some people if that'd be something that y'all could do. So, but we can talk about that more off air.
But, absolutely. Let me know. That'd be something we'd love to do. We already are planning on trying to do some type of youth fishing derby or something like that come March. So, I would absolutely be open to that and be honored to have the guys there.
Yeah, that'd be pretty neat because I know they do a lot of really cool stuff like that. I mean, they have a summer fest. I believe it's up in Wisconsin at at these trophy managed lakes and ponds, and it's like a big long week long thing they do up there. They do bear hunts all over the place, deer. I mean, turkeys. I mean, that's how I killed my first turkey, was actually on a USSA hunt in Alabama. So I mean, that's how I kind of got into turkey hunting, really. But so they're a great organization. But we can talk more about that later on. Try to get some details going there. That'd be really neat.
Yeah, I'd love to.
But yeah, man. So that's kind of covered what you do, where you're from. I like to do a little bit of a background. I'm sure some of the listeners don't enjoy that, but I like getting to know people, especially since we're on the pro staff together. I like to know who I'm talking to, But So yeah, let's. How did you get into hunting? And I know that's kind of a cliche question, so I'm gonna kind of twist that. What is your earliest memory of not just talking about hunting or watching like a show or something like that with your with family, but like you're at your first memory of actually being like in the woods, like your first hunting trip? What's your first memory?
My first distinct memory was I had to have been 3 or 4 years old, man, somewhere in that range, and I was going with my father to preseason scout for turkeys. And I remember, I always went with him, but this particular day was the first time that I heard a gobble and was like, that's a turkey making that sound. And we got out there, of course, I'm out there kicking rocks before the sun comes up, just being a little kid. And my dad kept telling me to be quiet, be quiet. And he said, just listen for a turkey to gobble. Well, the good Lord blessed us with one that was maybe 70 yards away. And I about jumped out of my boots whenever he went off. And I've been absolutely sick ever since. I can remember that very distinctly, everything about it. That is my first full memory regarding being out in the woods, was that preseason scouting. And after that, I believe I drove my dad absolutely insane wanting to go every time.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's the first time you hear a turkey gobble. And I know the first time I heard one, I was not that young. I was older, probably maybe on that trip to Alabama with the USSA.
Mm-hmm.
First time I heard one, I'd heard recordings of it, videos, whatever. But my dad has never been a huge turkey hunter. He's killed a few, but not huge into it. But yeah, it's a not unnerving, but it's just it's a soul shaking sound when you first hear one, and especially when you finally get one to answer to something that you're doing, like if you call and he responds to you, oh my, like it gives you chills. You're just like, and I think that's why we loved it so much. You know, us turkey hunters is you've took a piece of wood and scraped it on a piece of glass, or you've taken a diaphragm and vibrated it in your mouth, and he thought you were a turkey and he hollered back at you. You know, that's why, like, same thing with fishing. You made a fish eat something plastic or metal, you fooled him, and that's, I mean, that's to me, that's the chase. You know, you've, you know, mimicked something wild, and yeah, but you know, I mean, it gives you chills thinking about a turkey gobbling at something that you did. But no, that's an awesome, that's an awesome early memory for you there. My first memory is probably in a box stand down on Pistol Creek in Wilkes County. Probably hunting. We have box stands on fields down there, and we used to bring games and snacks and pillows, and we would curl up and take naps in the floor of a box stand. You know, that's probably my earliest memory of actually hunting. Hunting would be going to a box stand so we could be hidden. You know, we could move around and deer wouldn't see us as much. So that's probably my first earliest memory to come to think of it. So, but yeah, so would you say between turkey and deer hunting, is turkey like, does it take the cake? Is it like far and ahead your favorite thing to do as far as like the big?
It's not comparable. Yeah. It's not comparable, man. I've said it a million times. If the Lord came to me and said, Jonathan, I'll let you kill 150, 160, 70-inch deer every single time you go out for the rest of your life, or would you have one more morning of turkey hunting, and that's it, what would you do? I would go turkey hunting, and I would not be upset about it at all. It's definitely turkey for me. Definitely.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't heard it explained quite that way, but I mean that's a pretty strong feeling you've got there.
It is. I mean, this rest of the time, you know, deer season. I love deer hunting. I do. I love, you know, trying to kill mature deer. I love taking my sons out, and you know, my 8-year-old, which he's 9 now, killed his first deer last year, decent 8 point. I love every bit of all that. I grew up doing it my entire life, but for me, it's just not on a comparable level with turkey hunting. Everything else is to get by till next turkey season for me.
Gotcha. Yeah, just to pass the time.
Yep, just pass the time. And to hope maybe, just maybe on a cool fall morning, I'll just hear a gobble for no reason.
Yeah, well, hey, one of the neatest trail cam videos that I've ever had was in late June, and most of the time, if I had a video going, I wouldn't have the sound on my computer. I'm just clicking through, seeing if I see a buck or looking for deer, And for whatever reason, I had the sound on my computer one day, and it was, like I said, it was mid to late June one summer a few years ago, and this turkey gobbled like crazy. Thankfully, there was a doe in front of the camera on a salt lick that kept on moving and getting the camera to click on. And yeah. I'm talking, I bet I have 30 to 35 gobbles of that turkey. I mean, he had to be in the tree that the camera was on or right there close to it. Because, it like got the maximum of my computer speakers going. I mean, and that probably wasn't all that he gobbled either, because that was just when the doe moved, camera cut on for 5 seconds, and you'd hear him gobble. I mean, it was, wow. So there's no telling how many times he gobbled, but it was middle of the summer. I mean, I felt like I would have been like, there's probably someone over there gobbling with a tube or something like that. I would have never believed it if I'd have been down there in middle Georgia in the heat and that turkey's just hammering all morning. But yeah, that's random gobbles in the middle of the summer. It was a very interesting trail cam check for sure. But yeah, I took it. I sent it to John. I was like, have you ever heard one gobble in the summer down there? He's like, no, that's middle of June, but no, it was interesting. Now we've heard them down there in the fall. Like, they'll do that a little bit down there, September, October. I've heard them gobble pretty good one morning, but, never in the summer until that, that trail cam video. But we can
Yeah.
jump into a couple of viewer questions. I usually don't have many of these, but you asked some questions on yours, and remind me, David Barber. Who's David to you?
That is my uncle. My Uncle David is a biologist and avid hunter, and he always has some good questions. So
yeah, so he's got two or three. So one of them, the first one, and this is not really a hot topic, but it's a topic of discussion for sure with the TSS versus your old school. And he said, just what are your preferences for a turkey gauge, choke, shot? He said he's always been a 12 gauge, 3.5-inch Mossberg Ultramag kind of guy, and now these new ones, people are killing them with 410. I have a 20 gauge I shoot TSS out of. I have a 410 I shoot TSS out of. So what are your views on that? What do you use? And just take it away.
I actually have gone down to a 410 myself. I have every gauge set up and ready to go. And I have gotten on the TSS train as well. That's why I do shoot 410. What I love about that 410 is with TSS, I feel like any shot that I personally would take with a 12 gauge, I can kill a turkey with that 410. And, I'm not one to shoot. I don't believe I've shot past 30 yards in probably 7 or 8 years, something like that. Most of my shots are 20 to 25 yards. And, that 410 does well enough to do that at that range. I could kill them way further than that. I just, I haven't. Just for me, I like them up close and personal, and that 410 gives me the advantage of being able to do that with not even half the weight of that 12 gauge. Plus, my kids are getting into wanting a turkey hunt, and I've got multiple stocks for my 410s. So if Thursday morning my son decides that he's jumping in the truck and we're going turkey hunting, all I have to do is take that stock off real quick, pop the one that fits him on there, and we're ready to roll. And he can shoot that thing without a fear in the world. So I've gotten to really enjoy small gauge shotguns and TSS. I'm definitely on the train with both of those.
Yeah, and that's I feel like a lot of it is kind of it's almost like a craft beer or a craft tea. It's like there's a lot of the smaller companies that are making these craft shotgun shells, if you want to put it that way. Yeah. Like the Procure, they've got a lot of research and science that back it. And I teach physics. You're literally a scientist, so digging into the numbers, I'm like if you don't need the extra power behind it, and the 410 or a 20 gauge is doing more than enough. I mean, and tungsten is so dense that's what people don't understand. Well, it's just a 410. I'm like, yeah, but you got 9-shot, 7-8 or 9-shot, or maybe it's a blend. They've got so many out there, but 9-shot's so small, but it's so dense. It's got the same weight that the bigger shot would. So I mean, it penetrates better. It's smaller. So I mean, there's a 2 or 3-fold benefit there. And I know you know all this, but this is just talking to the listeners out there. I mean, it's incredible what they're doing with it. And I'm like you, just because you could hunt with a 12 gauge with a 3.5-inch TSS and maybe kill a turkey at 70 yards or 60, you hear some crazy stories out there, but it's like, yeah. I mean, is it really worth it to possibly injure the bird, or the shot spreads out and you injure a hen beside the gobbler you're trying to shoot? I mean, is it worth it? I mean, I don't think so. Heck, hunting up here in the mountains, I mean, unless you're hunting a field situation, if you're in the woods and you're using, I try to use woodsmanship, so that way the terrain kind of hides me from the turkey, so that way whenever I see him, he's within range. Because I've had a few hunts where it's across a ditch and he's 55, 60 yards away, and I'm like, crap, he can see you a lot better than you can see him. So,
yeah.
typically, like you said, you want them to get in there 20, 25 yards, and those 410 TSS shells, they're wicked. I mean, it's impressive what they're doing. And then,
yeah, if I can keep the same, energy with 9.5, 9 in a 410 as a 20 gauge, like 6 or 7 lead, and then have most of the time, in all honesty, a more dense pattern with more shot. I mean, that's a win-win. I think anybody who is against going smaller gauge TSS, they either don't understand the science behind it, which is fine, or they just have some, they're not ready to move on from what's been, the standard for decades now, which was understandable because the type of ammunition available just wasn't ideal for being able to do that. But now that it's here, it's an advantage, and I believe it's one that, for me, is one I'm going to take. I'm definitely going to go with any advantage I can.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's a lot of people are of the mindset they're old school. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, and that's I was not an early adopter of TSS because I hunted still hunt with a 20 gauge most of the time, but I would hunt with 20 gauge is like Winchester Supreme 5-shot, like just not even the Winchester XP Longbeard or nothing high dollar. It was cheap. It was 5-shot, but it killed turkeys. So I'm like, man, why would I spend 4 or 5 times the money when this is killing birds? But then I started, doing my research. I'm like, oh dang, there's that much more shot. There's that many more pellets, and they weigh more. Count me in, So of course I'm buying TSS now. I've got 410 to take too. So I mean, it's once you look at it and look at the information behind it, you're like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. I mean, it makes sense. But
my first bird was with a single shot 20 gauge, like number 7 bird load or something. Now I shot that bird from about 12 steps. And then after that, I actually owned Ultimag for many years and shot only 3.5-inch Longbeards. But right. I tested some 410s and I saw what they could do, and I saw the advantages of being able to move with them. Just there was a big difference for me. Oh, and here's another advantage some people don't realize: is as light as that gun is. Say if you've got a bird that's just in range or he's behind some stuff that you still feel if you move he can see you can hold that 410 up all day long. Day long. And that's another big thing for me. Really big thing for me.
Yeah. Well, and something like as guys are getting older, they may not want to admit that, their shoulders are not what they used to be, and, trying to tote, one, carry that a 12 gauge, big heavy gun, and then two, the recoil of a 12 gauge 3.5-inch. I mean, that's like me. Like I'm not that big of a guy. Like I'm not going to shoot a 3.5-inch 12 gauge turkey load. Not going to happen. Heck, a 20 gauge TSS. This is something I didn't think about, but a Tia, like if I was shooting my old shot, my 5-shot Winchester Supreme versus a TSS, the TSS kicks a little bit harder. I mean, it's conservation of momentum. It's there's a lot more mass going out, so it's going to kick a little bit harder. So I mean, it's like for me, like even going down to a 410, heck, I mean, not that you don't feel the recoil when you're, shooting at the turkey, you don't feel it, but at the same time, I mean, I've seen guys come back with a black and blue shoulder. They're like, yeah, I didn't feel it when I shot the turkey, but boy, I'm hurting now. That's, so it's a good thing for more hunters to get involved, to not have to worry about, thinking they have to shoot a 3.5-inch 12 gauge Ultimag, Mossberg. So
yeah, especially if you're serious about patterning and really knowing what your particular whatever shotgun that is that you go with. If you're serious about patterning it and knowing its capabilities, it can get very taxing to shoot a 12 gauge over and over and over. And I'm definitely happy that that part of it is no longer something I have to worry about.
Yeah, well, and that's something I think you owe to the turkey is knowing what your gun can do. I mean, I shoot my TSS as few times as possible. I've got a red dot on my 20 gauge, and I'll usually shoot like a target load or a bird shot, something a lot lighter. You know, get the red dot close. Then I'll put a TSS in there, make sure it's centered. I'm like, all right, we're good. You know, make sure it's patterned right. But no, you're right. But I mean, you need to test out your shot to make sure that you're going to make a lethal shot on the turkey. And yeah, shooting a 12 gauge 4, 5, 6 times does not sound fun right now.
No, not at all.
Yeah. All right, let's see what the next question was. And I was going to go into something else too that made me think about after that was the guys that some guys I'm sure are still out there that hunt with a 12 gauge 3.5 inch TSS load. Like TSS is the new thing, but they haven't dialed it back to a 3 inch or a 20 gauge. They're like, nope, 3.5 is what I want to shoot. That's, to me, it's kind of overkill. It's like up in North Georgia, there's a lot of guys that hunt with a 300 Win Mag or some of the short mag calibers that are built for long range. And even I'm sure you've heard the jokes about if you buy a 6.5 Creedmoor or a 270, you better hope it comes with a tracking dog. You've heard those sayings.
I've heard plenty of
Yeah, and it's like a 270 is a very lethal gun. 6.5 Creedmoor, very lethal. 300 Win Mag, very lethal, obviously. But if you shoot a 270, if you shoot a deer with a 270 at 45 yards, that bullet's moving so fast it doesn't have a chance to expand, so it might not bleed.
Yeah,
it's one of those like it. You hear stories about that. Man, I shot him with 300 Win Mag. He didn't bleed at all. Couldn't find him. I'm like, how far was your shot? Oh, 55 yards. I'm like, well, here's your sign. Like I hate it for you, but it's they're just not going to bleed as much.
Yeah,
but
yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's see the next question David had was, he said, let's hear some discussion about how current forestry practices, pure monoculture and heavy use of herbicides, lack of timely and controlled burning, may be impacting turkey populations. And he goes on to say it's not just coyotes and other predators that are the problem. So do you want me to read that again, or are you good on the...
No, I got it. Okay. I got it. I agree that it's not just coyotes that are a problem, and primarily because a lot of the recent years of the type of forestry practices that we've had has created habitat that is more beneficial to predators than it is to prey. It's put them in a position where it's harder to get away from everything from a coyote to you name it. It's just really put them in a situation where they're at a disadvantage in comparison. One of those things would be they've moved away from, when they do want to thin, from prescribed burns and things like that to aerial herbicide applications where, majority of the South now is, pine plantation. Well, to get rid of the sweet gum or any other, hardwoods or even, different types of other vegetation, they're going in and they're spraying aerial herbicides, and it's killing pretty much everything other than the pine trees. And that's created a monoculture, which monoculture just simply means, one primary species has the control over that particular area. And that's reduced the amount of browse available for deer and turkey. It's changed the way that cover is being used by different species. It makes some areas where it's just wide open pines and pine straw. And yes, a turkey likes to be in an area where they can look around and, see for a good distance, but they also need cover, especially when we're recruiting poults and everything like that, trying to raise up poults. They need good overhead cover to keep away from the hawks. They need cover directly in front of them for coyotes. They need somewhere to tuck down. And a lot of the practices, the aerial herbicide, the mechanical thinning instead of using fire, where they go in and just go in between the rows and knock everything down. That's created some issues. And then there's a big swing currently that's been going on for probably a decade now, from pole timber to pulp timber, which pulp timber, they don't need really mature pines to be able to create pulp. So the successional stages within these pine forests are not able to get to different levels. It's all one solid level. And by the time they're 10 to 12, 15 years at the most, these pines are being harvested. And the turnover of habitat is extremely high. So that's another way that they've affected habitat. It all comes, in my opinion, it all comes to habitat, for the most part, at least, when it, regarding the decimation of the turkey population, especially in the Southeast. Everything from nutrition to being able to recruit poults to avoiding predators is all directly related to a lot of forestry practices that are currently installed and heavily used.
Gotcha. Now, is that something that is regulated at the state level or local level, or I mean, as far as like you were talking about, there's the herbicides they spray that kills everything except for the pine trees. Is that something that should be managed at the state level, or is it managed and people don't listen? Like, how does that work? Like, does there need to be more regulations in legislature?
There's regulation regarding it. It's kind of like one of those situations where if you take from here, you got to give here. But when it comes to the timber industry, there's, the best way to put this, leniency on certain things and ways to basically, you're chasing a dollar, man. There's so much money involved in timber that it's they're always going to have the advantage on whatever practices that they really want, because they're able to control that whole lot. So essentially, the regulation's there, but the regulation is not directed in the right direction.
Gotcha. That's what I figured, is that it's I know the DNR and their our wildlife agencies are probably fighting for more regulation, or more like at least look at the data, see if you can help the wildlife populations. But like you said, money talks, and big timber is going to bring in money. So yeah, I mean, that unfortunately it sounds like that's kind of fighting a losing battle. But
the biggest thing about it, though, that I try to kind of get people to understand is, us talking about it here and other people involved in wildlife, whether it's hunting or just straight conservation or whatever, we're a much smaller percentage of concern to the people who make those decisions to build upon that type of thing. So I think everybody needs to get educated regarding it, and people who may, not hunt or something like that, if we can get everybody with the same understanding of what's going on, what it's creating, what it's causing, a little more awareness, then maybe there'll be enough pressure behind those who make those decisions to actually move forward with something that's pretty positive in that light.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense, and it's because it's the hunting industry and hunters as a whole. Like, there are a lot of us out there, but in the big picture, there really it's really not that big. There aren't that many of us. So yeah, like you said,
there's millions of us, but there's way more, that are not involved in that type of thing. And
right.
I mean, there's not enough of us that are involved in it that are vocal enough.
Yeah.
And that put in the time to really understand what it is that they're seeing. There's some of us that love it, just don't have the time or anything like that to really understand it. And that's something that, this type of information needs to be more readily available to the public so that they can, make their own judgments on it and then decide whether, something being voiced is worth it to them.
Right. And that's where, Turkeys for Tomorrow, the NWTF itself, those organizations, that's where, Turkeys for Tomorrow, I think, is getting, some good traction. It's getting a lot more, I know they talk a lot about, the predator, us trapping predators and things like that, and that's got to happen. But like you said, I think a lot of what you were talking about with the herbicides and, just the polewood versus pulpwood, I mean, a lot of that is people don't know what they don't know. Like that is what you just said. I had no idea that was an issue. Like we just went through the land that we lease in Wilkes County. We had like a massive clear cut. They took more than they were supposed to, I believe. But I mean it was some nice hardwood stands, and they took a bunch of it away. And now in a few years, as it naturally comes back and gets thick and turns into thickets, it'll be really good for the turkey and the deer. It'll be great. But like this year, it took a very high percentage of the forest that we had. It's gone. I mean, there's nothing there. So I mean, like this year, hopefully we had a good crop this spring. The poults are old enough now where they can make it, and then there'll be enough cover next spring for those new poults that come down. But yeah, and that's like all of what you said. I had little to no idea about it. So I think that's people don't know what they don't know in that regard. Right. So it's hard to be trying to fight for something if no one even knows it's a thing. So that's definitely a very biologist type question from David there. So thank you, David. But no, that's very interesting to me. As a hunter, as someone who wants obviously the best thing for the animals, it's a very diverse problem, unfortunately. But
it is, and again, the people simplify the habitat argument to simply throw some burns in there, throw in some food plots, and you approach the habitat, which it's a lot bigger issue, and there's a lot more variables involved in it than most would realize. That that what started the conversation was it's comparison to predation. Eliminating predators is it works. It works, and one of the things that that's another issue regarding that is the amount of people who trap these days in comparison of just a decade ago is a huge, huge difference. When I was growing up, I mean, heck, I think more than half of the people I knew that hunted in general also ran trap lines for different, small mammals, nest raiding animals and stuff like that. And I know a handful of people who trap every single year now in my immediate area, at least, on any serious note. And it's nothing like it used to be. Nothing like it used to be. And, again, when there's these other variables with, habitat depletion and what habitat is left isn't ideal, then those predators who are, don't have anything trying to manage their population, they just can run rampant and completely destroy, turkey populations, deer populations, rabbit, you name it. That's something that makes it 10 times easier for them to get involved in and completely just ruin it.
Right, and that's the Turkeys for Tomorrow. I believe has kind of ignited a lot of people to trap more. I mean, there's more traps being sold around my local area. I know more people who are trapping and posting about it, and it's a good push. But hopefully, it'll keep the traction it's gained so far, and because you had to be consistent with it. Because once you quit, they're going to move back in. I mean, it's you have to keep on keeping on. When you're trying to control predators.
Yeah.
But all right. So next question he had on here was he asked, "Are you going to be wingbone calling a bird this year?"
Actually, I am. And I started using a wingbone and different types of like trumpet style calls 4 or 5 years ago. I have called a few in and killed them, and I've gotten to where I really, really enjoy doing it. But this year is actually going to be pretty special. I lost my father in June of this year, and me and my brother, we grew up hunting, and Dad took us anytime that he could. And just a few years back, he had bought his second farm, and it was his paradise. He wanted to turn it into something special for us, for him, just what he always wanted to do. And just about a month and a half prior to my dad passing away, me and my brother were supposed to go to Texas to hunt Rios, and flights got canceled, all kinds of stuff happened, and we didn't get to do it. Well, my brother harvested the first turkey harvested on my dad's farm this spring, and with the wing bones, he had matching calls made in memory of my father. And it's made with the wing bones from that turkey harvested on that property. It's got his feathers inlaid in it. And that call will be around my neck everywhere I go this year, on every hunt. And it will be my primary goal to harvest a bird with that call and with the one and only turkey shotgun my dad's ever owned. So yes, I will absolutely be running a wing bone this year.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love those kind of stories, and those kind of things where it's most of us have somebody who we've lost close to us, but having something like that means that much to you. I mean, that's good luck to you. I hope you have the most success you can possibly have with that thing. That's going to be awesome to follow. Hopefully we can get you on to talk about that this spring whenever you kill one with it.
Love to, buddy. Love to.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I hate to hear that your dad passed, but I mean that's a great legacy that he left behind, for sure. And that's incredible. Hopefully, you and your brother both will have some luck with that wingbone call.
I think we're going to try to see if we can't get a bird on my dad's property with that call too, and just kind of cap it off as something very special that we'll carry with us for a very long time.
Yeah, man, I hope so. That I'm looking forward to hearing about that. I'm looking forward to hearing your stories and what happens with that. It's going to be incredible.
Look forward to it.
Yeah, man. We'll jump into kind of switching gears here. We got a couple of questions about feed from John Browning himself and Nick Judy. And then then we can go ahead and call her quits for the night. It's 10:32 here, so so John's feed question is, what do you think the effects of supplemental feeds are with the inevitable CWD so close to us, and the adverse effects that it has on turkey? So just feeding in general, statewide, we can feed for deer. Cannot feed for turkey. People do, but you're not, illegal to feed for turkey. But yeah, so CWD, and then how does feeding affect turkeys?
All right. CWD has slowly been encroaching on Georgia. There's been a few confirmed cases around. We have been noticing some deer who seem to have been a casualty of something that we could not find any evidence of being shot or car wrecks, anything like that. And they have been tested, and we were waiting on that. So that was kind of a concern for us, that it may be encroaching on my immediate area, which we kind of thought that we were safe for the time being. But I don't see CWD currently as a problem for the wild turkey itself. It's the supplemental feeding that is an issue for the wild turkey, is like the amount of toxins found in corn. There's no real diseases that are too high of a concern right now. The bird flu, different types of bird flus are a possibility, but they haven't been confirmed yet. But one thing that is confirmed is every single bit of corn that you find out, feed corn that is put out, whether it's shelled or on the cob, is going to have a percentage of toxins that come from molds and different things on that corn itself. Every research that I've seen where they tested, trying to find any corn that didn't have it on it, had failed. It's 100%. And the amount of toxins that a turkey can take in versus, say, a deer are much smaller. So it starts creating digestive issues, different things like that can really have a huge impact on the turkey population. The numbers for exactly how impactful it is are not solid yet. That type of research is still in its infancy. But in my personal opinion, from what I've seen, I do believe that supplemental feeding can increase conditions in a turkey population that is possibly a major contributor to the decline of the population, especially when you look at the timing of when that became legal in Georgia to bait for deer, and the turkeys were already on the kind of downhill slide at that time. But once it came in, all of a sudden, it dropped off. And in the years leading up to that, poult numbers were down, nesting numbers were down, even in areas that had ideal habitat. So I do believe there's some type of relation with it, whether it's the toxins from the mold or some other diseases that are that avian, birds are susceptible to. I do believe that has a big part of it.
Okay. Yeah, so I knew very little about that. I knew, I'd heard people talk about, a corn pile is not good for turkeys. I didn't know the real reason why. But yeah, that's very interesting. That's one of those things too that I think a lot of people, don't know what they don't know. Unfortunately, feeding, because pretty much 100% of the people that deer hunt around here are feeding for deer. They're putting the corn out there for the deer, and if they have turkeys in the area, obviously the turkeys. It's a bird. They're gonna go up and eat the corn. They're gonna eat seed. They're gonna find a food source, right? So it's and that's just a kind of a sad, side effect of feeding for deer. So are there any? If someone out there listening were wanting to feed for turkeys, is there a safe feed like for the off season or the winter time to supplement feeding the turkeys that would help their habitat on their property, or keep turkeys around? Is there a safe thing to feed?
Your best bet is to go with increasing natural grasses and browses and stuff like that. or implementing a food plot, because the food plot's not going to be as compacted and everything as a feed site would be. The issue when it comes with feed sites, there's two main issues. One is saliva and all other types of fluids, different things like that. Whenever every animal is eating within a very small general area, that type of stuff kind of gets spread through there. But also tracking, just stepping in this, stepping in that, and then all compacted all into one little area. For me, in my opinion, feeding turkeys in, piles or just very small areas, but for scratch and stuff like that is probably a bad idea. So I would more focus on creating natural browse and maybe implementing some food plots that, are beneficial to turkeys.
Gotcha. No, that makes perfect sense. So the next question, last question we'll do for the night is from Nick Judy, another Creekbank member. So this is for deer, but when is the best time to begin protein supplements for deer? And is there a prescription, so to speak, based on time of year, the amounts provided? Like, do you wean them? Like, do you need to hit them heavier with protein in the spring, hit them hard in the summer?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. The spring, starting in the spring is typically best right on the back side of the bucks losing their antlers, because then their body, is kind of shifts into, right after they lose their antlers, their body's preparing to regrow. And that's bone mass. So to be able to do that, minerals like, calcium, different things like that are extremely important. Protein is extremely important. But also you have pregnant does who pretty much need almost double of everything at that time. And then once they start nursing and producing milk, they need the same thing. So spring and early summer is the absolute best time, especially if your goal is to increase antler mass. I would, per 100 acres, I'd say 2 to 3 little mineral sites of whatever type. I'm not personally partial, to anything in particular. I have my own little recipe of, minerals that I create myself. And in all honesty, it's stuff that you get at your basic ag store that's really designed mainly for like bovine species, like cows and different things like that. But they have all types of different types of minerals that you can get in bag form. I mix mine up, find an old stump or a hole in the ground, pour it in there, and I soak it down with some water and refill it every month and a half, 2 months, something like that. And it's done great for me. It's done very well for other properties I managed. I believe that's probably the best way to do minerals is to start it early spring, start to amp it up in terms of volume throughout, midsummer, and then you could taper off a little bit, once they start to really, harden and everything like that. You don't need to stop it completely, but I'd back off, I'd say August, start reducing the amount, because they're going to get to a point to where they're no longer needing that much, and they'll sit there and eat exactly how much they need. So, their body tells them what they need at the time, and if you can provide it in surplus, essentially, it's definitely going to give you good results over time.
Gotcha. No, that's something that we do as well. Is we do salt licks, and my dad found a little recipe probably on the GON forum years ago, but it's I believe it is 2 parts mineral salt, 1 part table salt, and 1 part dicalcium phosphate is what we do. And
yeah, that's a standard.
Yeah, so that's yes. My dad found that recipe somewhere, and it's not like it's a secret. It's widely known. But that's we usually try to right during turkey season, early spring, March. Right before turkey season starts, sometime in March, we'll freshen up our salt licks, and then we usually don't have water with us, so we're just hoping for rain. But we've got probably for usually right in front of some of our ladder stands in the woods, we have probably 7, 8, 9 salt lick sites that we personally put out. And I tell you, and over the summer, I mean, I really don't feed on our hunting land, so I mean, most of the pictures that I get over the summer, if I get any good bucks, it's just on salt licks. I mean, I've gotten. Not saying I've got all the big bucks on the property or on my salt licks, but it's impressive to me that you put a salt lick out and bucks will show up at some point in the summer. So it's
Okay. Yep. They have a sense about it, and once they find it, they'll use it until it's either gone or they don't need it anymore. They know exactly. Their diet changes throughout the year, not only based off of what's available, but what's ideal for them at that moment.
right.
It's the same thing with those that are lactating and stuff like that. They know exactly what they need to produce whatever energy at that time of year, or to grow antlers, produce milk. They know exactly what they're looking for.
Right, and that's something that it's almost like clockwork. Opening weekend, their first week or two of season for sure. Before there's a lot of hunters in the woods. If you've got some doe, like if you can find one of our salt lick sites that's got does coming into it pretty regularly, I mean it's almost a slam dunk that you can at least kill a doe, because I mean they're there. They may have fawns with them, but if there's any that have branched off already, I mean early in the season they hit those salt licks pretty hard.
Oh yeah.
For us anyways. But that's I do have one last question from me, and I there may not be a way around this, but on our hunting club in Wilkes, we've got 1,500 acres, and a lot of other guys have feeders out that they keep filled pretty regularly, and we've had hogs move back in.
Yeah.
And is there? I mean, apart from just hunting hogs like crazy, I mean, once they move into a feed site, certain areas on the property they've kind of taken it over. Hogs took over one of my salt licks, turned it into a nice big wallow, and so I quit freshening it up. It was, hogs galore in there at night, But is there anything like, what is your advice to someone who has a hog problem? Is it just hunt like crazy, or what's your advice there?
Well, first thing you need to do is put your hiking boots on, because that is an uphill battle, buddy. Yeah. It's one of those things that if your neighbors aren't helping you out, then you'll never fully get ahead of the problem, which you never completely will. I mean, hogs are going to be around. They're just going to be here. They're here to stay, but you can reduce their usage of your property by pressure. Killing every single one that you can when you can, hunting as much as possible. When they do find feed sites and stuff like that, I mean, that locks into their brain, and they know they can go there and get an easy meal instead of having to root around and things like that. But a hog's going to eat pretty much whatever it comes across, and they reproduce extremely fast. So my advice, if you came up with a hog problem, is, at least for the short term, I would quit feeding and amp up the amount of hunting. But one of the important things to do, I think, would be to talk to your neighbors. Talk to them about the issue. If it seems like they don't fully understand why it's an issue, maybe try to, get that across a little bit. But yeah, for the most part, it's shooting and stacking, man. I'm sure you've seen how overrun Texas and Oklahoma, Arkansas, those areas are. I mean, it's bad enough there that they have aerial hog hunting businesses now, where you could just ride around with, some type of AR platform, and you could kill 100 hogs a night, and they could turn around and do it the next night. The millions and probably billions of dollars in damage that they do every year, it's kind of obvious that they're not going anywhere, but we can at least try by trying to reduce our numbers in our immediate areas. But that's really all you can do.
Right, and I figured that's what the answer was going to be is kind of an uphill battle. But what's interesting is when I was younger, probably 7 or 8, pretty young, I remember there was a hog wallow that we would go check out. You could see the mud on the trees, and I have those memories of it. We didn't really run cameras much back then, but and then so there were hogs there then, and then within the next few years, there really weren't many hogs. We started running cameras more, like as cameras, trail cameras became more popular and more easy to get your hands on. We didn't really have that many pictures of them. And then probably about the time that, the feeding became legal is when the hogs, for sure moved back in, and there's a bunch of them there now on our property. But it was just, it was interesting that, years ago they were there, then there was a time when they weren't, and it could have been that people on the bordering properties were feeding in the off season or feeding illegally, who knows, and that, kind of pull the hogs off the property for, 5-10 years, and then, they come right back. So, I mean, it's like they're going to follow the food. So like you said, I mean, if you were to quit feeding, hunt enough, you could potentially, help the problem a little bit. But yeah,
you could impact them. You're not going to get rid of them, but you can impact them. My immediate, my main property that I hunt, I've been a part of this hunting club my entire life. My kids are being raised on as third generation. My dad joined it forever ago. Is primarily, other than the pine plantations, the rest of the whole property is swampland, completely swamp. It's 5,600 acres. We kill hogs every year on it, but it seems like every 3 years we'll kill a bunch, and then we won't kill but 1 or 2 a year, something like that, for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden they're back again in bunches. So I believe, they don't stay on a property for a very long duration of time. They just move. They just go around feeding, and they end up back on yours, or it's a whole other group. But, they'll always be in and out, but you can do your best to discourage them.
Gotcha. No, that makes sense. Well, man, I appreciate it. It's getting late, and I know you've got a busy schedule yourself and a pregnant wife that's hopefully gonna let the baby bake a little bit longer there. You said she's due in about a month, like into November sometime. Is that right?
Yep. C-section is scheduled for Black Friday, November 24th. So the day after Thanksgiving. She's going to get her belly full, and I'm going to get my belly full. We're going to wake up and hopefully be going to the hospital to have a baby that day. Praying that it doesn't come sooner. Just be best to go ahead full term. But she's had some issues going on, but we keep praying for it, and we're moving forward. I think we're going to be all right.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we'll keep you guys in our prayers, and hopefully, like I said, hopefully she goes the whole way and everything works out fine, and y'all have a healthy little baby. Is it a boy or a girl?
It's a boy. It's
little
boy.
My
fourth boy.
Fourth boy. Yeah, I've got 2 girls, so I'm a little afraid to try again, but I'm highly outnumbered right now. So, but no, that'll be awesome, man. We'll keep on praying for you, and like I said, we'll keep in touch. So hopefully everything works out great.
I really appreciate it, bud.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for listening to the Bucktails Podcast.